So I'll just take that as it is. I think that's good to go. We can just start putting this up into our atlas now. So quickly what I'll do is grab this piece and I will apply, if I can find it here. Yeah, remove that material and we'll apply our atlas to it. Okay, it's a mess, but it'll get there. So we're just going to start cutting this up now. I'm going to select piece by piece. I'm going to go down, trying to keep everything as squared as possible, and I'm going to unwrap it to this. So I'll select that, it's U, and unwrap. And I want to go down in order and unwrap. So the method isn't really changing from the first video. The way we done it, it stays the same. Unwrap. Okay, so I'll grab the first guy here. First and second look okay. Again, I'm looking to see where the tiles are on this projection. So I know that none of this has to be rotated yet. This one here does. So I'll quickly grab him. In my view here, I'll press A, select everything, and or hold Control and snap. So I'll turn that 180. And now I can vaguely see it here, but the tiles are on the top and everything else looks fine. With absolute grid snap turned on move and scale, and I'll just move this up into the top. So here we can kind of see now that worked. Front and back. I'll ensure this last one here quickly, hopefully. And let's have a look and see how this is set up. I'll need to unwrap that. Okay, again, same process. I'm just going down, selecting what would be a square and unwrapping. So I need to look for roof tiles that are shown on the bottom. So this one has to rotate and this one. So again, it won't let me do it with constraint turned on, so I'll turn that off. Rotate, hold Control, snap it. And now I need to turn constraint back on, select each piece. And I want to just build this out. To a perfect square in each case. Now this one is different because the top edge is not a full edge. So we're kind of going back to where we were in the first instance here. So I know that this edge should be in line with the far side of the UV. So with that, I'm just going to press G and I'll move it across. And I can't just drag this over because it's not designed that way. So what I need to do is turn off and snap here, and I'll get into a point where I can actually probably see it a little better. I'll need to, okay, actually it'll be easier to do it this way. With this on, I want to, what's going on now? Turn that off, turn snap on, and snap that. Okay, so that's okay here. Now with this piece, I want to move him into place so that he is not working again. Alright. Let's try that again. Alright, now that's the way he should be. So I need to look at this and line this up with snap turned off manually just by pulling on this edge. So that looks okay there. And for better reference, I'm going to put this in line as well so I can line it up properly with the bottom tiles here. So with him, I'll select him, turn constraint back on. and resize him with snap on here. Okay, so we know that that's perfect. And yeah, so as we can see, that lines up nicely there. So we know that this piece was the hard bit, but it worked out perfect. So I'll do the same here. Move him into place and actually I'll go ahead with the bottom piece here. And move him up. So now I just need to line up this guy. So he, straight edge, should be on this side. I'll move him across. I'll resize him into the top square, turn off snap, and now I'll just manually line this up. So it looks okay there along the bottom. Let's have a look at the top. Yeah, okay, we're good there. Right, now the back. This is all straightforward. We'll grab him, unwrap. Okay, so same as last time. You can rotate these to turn off constraint. Yeah, turn it back on. And one by one, I will just fill this out. Alright. Okay. Grab everything. Make sure snap is on. Make sure again the snap is on. Here we go. Okay, spot on. So we still need to do the insides. Although I'm still at this point, I'm not really sure what sort of texture I want to give the inside here. But for the moment, we'll just quickly look at these pieces and make sure that they are all lining up properly. Okay, so that's 3 segments done and looking pretty tight. These roof segments have actually been pretty straightforward as far as cutting goes, but the game kind of steps up a bit when it comes to objects like this one here. Because you can see it's modeled, it's very simplistic geometry, but of course we need to add this into the same kind of cuts that we have here to make it better for the UV. So one thing we could do would be to approach it the same way we done this. Just use every second bar of the grid and just kind of knife across it. But if you're doing this on, well, this piece alone would be tricky enough. But what if you were kind of expanding on your library of assets and you could be doing this 10, 15, probably 100 times, you know? So the question would be to ask yourself, would there be a better way to do that? So you get a consistent cut regardless of the shape the piece is. And the answer basically is yes. We kind of touched on it with these roof segments here on the last one. It's basically by setting up planes and intersecting the geometry where you'd like every cut to take place. But again, these are very simplified. What if the model has multiple angles like what we have here? You know, it could kind of get confusing for somebody who's kind of new to this pipeline. So I'm just going to go through it pretty basically here. We can see with this piece, we have the origin point straight on the center of those 2 grid lines there, which is perfect because that's where we're going to want to spawn the object, the plane from. So with that selected, you want to make sure that your 3D cursor is in that location as well. You do that by outside of edit mode, just right click and snap. So you select the object first, snap, and your cursor to selected, and it will snap that to the selected object. From there, I want to go into top view, top orthographic. I'll click on the Z here, and I'm going to press Shift and A and make it plain. Now I have this set to 16 meters in size. I find that 16 meters actually is perfect for this piece, and considering that piece and many of the others are probably that size in general, I'd recommend set your size here to 16. Okay, so from there what we're going to do is cut this up into quarters. I'll select the object, the plane, and I'm going to tab into edit mode. I'll press Ctrl R, and I want to add a subdivision along either axis, and then I'll select one corner and press Ctrl I to invert that selection, X, and delete faces. So we're left with the bottom, in this case we're left with the bottom quarter of that. So I'm going to come out of edit mode into object mode. I'll add a modifier, and I want to set up a mirror, and it's set the mirror up in the X. I want to add it on the Y as well. So now any edits I make to this bottom corner will be mirrored across the 3 other quarters too. So this is a quick way to set that up. So in essence what I need to do is, I know that I want, if I look at this object, every 2 grid points there's an intersection. Okay, so that's going to essentially just run along the same way here. So on the x-axis of this object that I created, I want to set up subdivision. So I'm going to press Ctrl R, and that'll place 1 in the center. If I mouse wheel up twice, you can then see that those yellow lines, if I click and right click, those yellow lines, well, they're red lines now, but they are perfectly in line with the grid points that we wanted, which is perfect. I can't really see on the other side though. I'm not sure if that copied for me. Turn on wireframe. There we go. Yeah, so they copied along nicely, and you can see any changes that I make works on the mirror. Okay, so with that done, we're going to do the y-axis now, and it's not quite the same, because if you look at the way this is made, this isn't every 2 grid points, because remember when we done this there was a perspective involved. So these squares here technically aren't very square if you were to kind of look at it straight on. The reason why we made it like that is because if you're looking at this within a game engine, I guess, if you're looking at, say you're looking at a roof from that angle, if these are perfectly squared, there'd be a kind of a parallax effect that happens, that it doesn't look, it looks kind of crunched, whereas if you've got the polygon which is kind of moving away from you at a longer angle, it gives a more natural perspective view, I think. Now that's just a personal feeling that a lot of people might think like that's nonsense, and you know, they're probably right. I just prefer using this particular setup because I think it has a much nicer perspective when used inside of a game engine with particular focal lengths involved in your camera as well. So I don't like to set the grid up perfectly as squared here, and that design choice in its own way kind of comes with a few problems. Mainly, this cutter tool has to be rotated to face the angle that you want to cut every time. So for example, if I was going to set this up and I wanted to cut those faces, I need to rotate the cutter tool into place so that the long stretch of polys is pointing towards the slant of the roof. A little hard to explain that one, I think, but basically I'd need to rotate it into this angle, do my cut, and then when I want to cut this section I need to rotate the cutter to face that slope. So it's always the slope that's going away from the camera is where you want to rotate this. So I'm sure that made absolutely no sense, In my head it did, but I'm sure to someone who's watching this, scratching their head, it made no sense. So I'm just going to quickly add these cuts in and I'll show example of what I'm talking about. So in order to do that, I think I'm going to need a proxy. So I'll go into top down again, or bottom up, whichever, good old Blender. And I will copy this piece of model here, Shift D, and I'll bring that in. Now I want to snap that to the cursor here. So with it selected, I'll right click and I want to snap selection to cursor. Now it'll leave that piece behind. That doesn't matter, I don't really need it. The window I can get rid of. I'm only interested in those dividing lines. So I'll go back into top down and give myself a little room to maneuver here. So actually I'm probably better off, yeah, I think I'm better off bringing this down so I can see it here, because that is my active piece of geometry. So now I'm going to cut. Again, I'm not cutting to the grid anymore, because you can see those divisions or these lines aren't on the grid. They're not every second grid point like those ones are. So on this piece, I want to follow this line. So actually, could I probably get this a bit closer? I think I could. I'll bring it right up here. Select this geometry, go into edit mode, press Ctrl R, and I'll add my line in, and now I'm just going to move it up so that it matches. There, and I have another line here. I'll do the same. Ctrl R. There we go. And one more. I want to find the edge of this piece here. So Ctrl R. Alright. So I added the cuts in here for me on top as well. But now we kind of run into the problem where this piece is modular, this piece is longer than this one is. But we've run out of guidelines to follow here. So we can actually fix this by selecting all these and removing them. Remove faces. And I need to go into X-ray for this, I think. Okay, so what I'll do now to fix this is I will select everything. And I want to press Shift D and duplicate that out. And then with everything selected, I want to press 1, hold Shift and click on the clear to see vertex here. I can see that pretty clearly, so I'm going to click that twice and that becomes white. Now that's my active vert. So I will just turn on vertex snap and I'm going to hover over it, press G, and I'll snap it back to that piece. Now I'll press A to select everything, right click, merge verts by distance, and remove 5 verts. So that welded those 5 pieces. So it gives me more than I needed there now, so I can just come in, grab those 2 on the outside, X, and remove face. Okay, so that's the cutter setup. Basic cutter setup. It's one level of it. So now we need to bring it up so that, like on the last one, it's parallel with these grid lines. So same as what I'm going to do is grab the bottom line here. I want to catch its height. I'll Control C here. Select the cutter. And then in the Z field, Control V, paste. That's the bottom. Okay, I will shift click, right click to put it back in place, and I'm going to turn snap off here. It's kind of tripping me. I'll move it up a touch. Now I'll select the proxy, select the second cut, copy its Z value, Control C, and paste it here, Control V. And do that one more time. Well, Shift D to duplicate it. Move it up a touch, and now I'll find the last. This is here, Control C, V. Okay. So that should cover pretty much everything. I think. We don't need the proxy anymore. I'm going to remove that. Delete. I'm going to join these three together. Control J. Tab into edit mode. Press 3 to go to polyselect. A to select everything. Okay, mirror is still here, so I need to apply the mirror first. Now select everything. Press X and delete only faces. That leaves me here with the cutter tool selected. I want to find with my hierarchy. I have a cutter here that's from the last one. I'll remove that, I don't need it. I'll select plane and I'll rename that one. Here we go. Now as long as this is visible, we can just kind of drag and drop all the assets we want in on top of this and just cut it then. So let's just see how it actually works.